actually quite relieved right now because I had such a great anxiety before coming onto this stage. And I hope you're all having a great time. I know there's a cliche about starting your TEDx speech with a story, so I'll go for that too. But this time, I think I'll start off with something that may seem odd or irrelevant at first. I promise, I'll get back to it. I suppose you all know those enlightening moments that we have as human beings, but before you all go, oh man, not those stuff again, I would like to remind you that we aren't so different from each other in terms of explaining the incidents about ourselves that we regard as most special. So, most probably, at some point in your life, you have wondered what it is to be human. You have wondered where we had come from, where we're going, and where it's all going to end. You've gone through an existential crisis while solving your maths questions, thinking about how ability defines our human being. You've wondered, do we have abilities? But wait, why did we need abilities in the first place? Why weren't we eligible for everything? And at some point, you throw in the towel. Enough. I've done everything that I could. What am I even working for? I'm working enough, kind enough, value my values sufficiently. Nothing's happening. Why have we decided to develop in the first place? You feel overwhelmed by the facts that human beings have pride for. You just want to sit and wait for your fate to show you the way, which is regarded as a special guide, so there's no problem with that. And then, what happens is, you come out of your shell, becoming less selfish about your problems. Turning back to the first question, what am I? Not who am I, but what am I? You're now curious about other people, other races, other socioeconomic layers. And you ask yourself, what do we have in common? What does it take to be human? But then you realise, no, we're different. We were never treated adequately as human. We had scales. We were different from each other, and this difference was purely and simply caused by us. Caused by the criteria we had set, but weren't able to reach. The reason for this was the want of having power, being unique. But the truth is, we're not. We're just changed copies of each other. Even though we come from a huge gene pool, adding new combinations, we're not. In essence, we're equally unique. And our ideas, feelings, sorry guys, they're all reused. We try to be different, thinking that our point, our purpose in this life, is to come to a point where no one has dreamt of. But the truth is, we're just discovering, embracing, and adding up to each other. Other than that, every word that you have once commented on a book is only valuable if it has been said before. So, having so many agreements, why aren't we equal? Why have we wanted to distinguish, and how have we exactly done that? Animals had to separate themselves due to instinctual and adaptational reasons, whereas us, we were bound to evolution too. But haven't you already noticed how determined we are from the very, very beginning to dehumanize each other for societal and individual reasons? Looking into the same sunrise, seeing different colours, yet excluding the ones who see less or more. Denying their humanity and colonising them for the standards. Now, by your leave, I would like to put these heavy arguments aside to perplex you and your mind. Don't worry, I promise. They'll be related, but what an amount of promises I've given today. Again, what defines a human being? What makes a human being human being? Being something indeed, but what? How do you think we're defined in particular areas we glorify and respect? For evolutionary biology, we come from the tiniest beings forming the primates. To put it more explicitly, Homo sapiens, wise man. Yes, we're called the wise man. Every single person in this room, in the world that has reached the modern abilities of our species, is called wise man. Such an anticipatory and intense word to hear. For astronomy, in contrast, we're absolutely nothing in this expanding universe. Of course, they're not willing to say that, but, you know, we are. It's like the friction force that we disregard in this physics question, although it is there. For philosophy, do we really want to get into that right now? But all that can be said is that our essence creates our external reality, meaning being is future. For the arts, we are the species that have the obligation to express ourselves, to shine, to glow. Every area in itself search for a meaning of what human being is. We aggrandize, we canonize ourselves in many different ways, and underestimate our existence in this who knows where it's going universe. Another baffling fact I had acknowledged in one of our lessons was that our cells are a master of quantum tunneling, meaning that we can time travel within ourselves. This and other special phenomena summarizes Schrödinger with these words. At a molecular level, living organisms have a certain order, a structure to them. That's very different from the random thermodynamic jostling of atoms and molecules, inanimate, of the same complexity. So, thinking about these may seem far-fetched for some of you, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to form some questions about our existence and abilities, and expect from you to correlate these facts into the main problem on how we glorify ourselves to undermine our wiseness. Coming back to the main topic of my speech, and putting the physical existence aside, we are divided in thousands and hundreds and thousands of different ways, and the main cause for this is culture. The interesting thing is, culture is something cumulative, meaning that it has needed hundreds and thousands of years to form itself. So this brings us to the question, were we bound to isolate ourselves from one another? How did we do that? Why have we wanted to do that? And now I'm talking about personhood. We have values. My generation has values. My parents' generation has values. The next generation has values. We all have values. And these values are like a way of handling life. We think we're different and more eligible for the future, not realizing how oblivious we are and that our praised values will vanish someday. The problem is, each generation defines themselves as different, and the fight of who's more human will only be a question of that generation. The problem does not only occur within generations, but comes from the very beginning. We have chosen to discover the world around us, disregarding the fact that we may interpret it differently, divergently, although we come from the same source, and that our aims are mostly the same, just with different names. Okay, I get it. We wanted to form groups, communities, societies. But the main struggle was about our essence, the fate. It was about race, about gender, about power, about everything that you can think of. And we always tend to see some as less human, being the most, vice versa. With culture and values, we have decided what is perfect, what is right, what is the best. And with these ideas were planted within our minds, within generations, bringing us to a point where we deny our own humanity before they do. This first part was about essence. However, after the dissociation, where we stand now is how to verify or falsify personhood as social beings. But there's absolutely no way. We don't have a clear definition of what human being is in sociological terms. Yet I think we can all agree on the urge to prevail, yet again, a fake purpose constituted by values. Yes, they may have stories, values may have stories, cultures may have stories, but the significant point is, how do we contemplate on these stories? To dig deeper into values, it could be classified in three ways. The first one is the system level, system representation. As befits the name, it's the relationship between values and the harmony. The second one is the specific abstract values, like love, like wealth, like hate, and we create stronger bonds within these values. The third one is the instantiation level, meaning that the correlation between values and incidents. Now, I want you all to think about values for a second. Now think about the oppression caused by macro-level communities. Finding purposes within values, but using other people that have been dehumanized. It shouldn't be difficult to think of an example. Now think of this in an individual level. Normalizing the dehumanized people and calling them basic because they haven't reached the highly recommended standards. Although we as human beings had agreed on to call ourselves complex and wise and great, glorified. Remember when I said wise? We are wise indeed. We compromise on what we embrace to a certain level. But are we really that altruistic to define what human being is? If your purpose of life had come from a really good source that you really trust, would you want to open the envelope of reveal? Would you want to learn about your purpose of getting up every single day, working for a purpose that is fake, that you're pretending? Would you want to learn about that? Yet again, hindering the feeling of nothing to seek the absence of nothing. And in the end, do we really want to find out what human being is? Are we just secretly intrigued by the process of figuring out, with a controversially excruciating yet joyful ways? Who knows? Thank you.